Hello and welcome. I'm Lloyd, and this is the Dressing Gown Diary. Oh, there's a lot to talk about. We had a great third round of the 2018 Six Nations. Oh, didn't we just? It kicked off with a pretty tight game in Marseille, the first Six Nations game to take place there, as France finally found a win at the ninth time of asking. They look like a poor team, but they might be returning to their best. England will have a tough task visiting Paris this coming weekend. It then continued with Dublin. Whew, what a game! Ireland opened up, but Wales just didn't disappear. Wales strong in the first half. Ireland really battered beginning of the second half. But then suddenly Wales started opening up, scored some tries and looked quite dangerous. But in the end, the result was probably right. But for me as a Welshman, I'm so happy with the way that Wales are now playing expansive, exciting rugby, throwing the ball around. I still think some of the selections were questionable though. I'm not sure Biggar was really on the game, but then again, you knew Ireland were going to play high ball game. One thing I really don't like about Dan Biggar is arms in the air, he's moaning about stuff. He's now putting the ref off. You've got to stop that. You know, someone like a Sam Warburton or Richie McCall, they just have the ear of the referee. They're able to discuss with them what's going on and influence their thinking. Whereas when you see players like Mike Brown is another one, arms in the air moaning, and Owen Farrell used to do it. He used to do it until about 2 years ago. These players actually frustrate the referee and then they look for reasons to give decisions against you. That is not helpful for your team. But the small matter of that weekend's game was Scotland smashing England until next week. I think England showed up thinking that they were just going to stroll through the game. You know, we're the best team here. We've won 24 out of 25. We won't have a problem. We'll win easily. How wrong they were. Scotland really had done their homework and looked at the counter ruck. How many times do you see an England player on their ass trying to protect the ball and just counter rucked? Now, there's been some chat about Nigel Owens, about some of the decisions. Now, I think he made the right calls. The knock-on was definitely a knock-on. He is a very diligent referee. And at the end of the day, it's about playing the referee and the interpretation of the rules. England can't complain about the result. It went wrong from the moment Owen Farrell jumped over in the tunnel and tried to smash someone up. I mean, if I was playing for Scotland, the first thing I'd do is just lock like that. I'd hit Mike Brown. And then knowing it would all kick off and their minds elsewhere. But what was interesting is that Eddie Jones couldn't adapt to the game plan that Scotland brought forward with the counter-rucking. There was no change in it. There was no dynamics. And there's been a bit of talk as well about Itoje and his lack of impact. You look at how amazing he was last season. And then in the Lions tour, it continued into the Lions tour. He was pretty much man of the match every time. Whereas now he's not making those Hollywood moments they've been talked about. The impact players. He's not making steals. He's not making big turnovers. He's not smashing people in tackles. He's not making running rugby. I don't know what's happened to him. But let's look forward to this weekend's games then. Now, at the moment, the way the Six Nations is going, actually, 5 teams can still win the title. Now, admittedly, Wales and France need results to go their way, but there are still opportunities for Scotland to still win, amazingly enough. Ireland clearly in the ascendancy, and they'll fancy their chances of closing in on another Grand Slam. But England still have it amongst them. As long as they can beat France, they can turn over Ireland in the last game. So it kicks off with Ireland hosting Scotland. It is a tight game. Scotland will absolutely be bubbling at the moment, having dispatched England last weekend. So what can they find going into this game? Ireland have made some changes though. They've firmed up their team. Tad Furlong in at the tight will certainly help in the scrum. But Scotland look very dangerous. I mean, Hugh Jones, what a great performance against England. His second try, smashing out Watson, gassing everyone. If you can show that kind of broken play rugby against Ireland, then Scotland have a chance. But winning away anywhere except Rome in the Six Nations is very difficult these days. It is not an easy task. So far, only Ireland have won in France this season with a last-minute drop goal, as we know. So it's certainly not straightforward for Scotland to win, and I still think Ireland will probably sneak home. The next game of the weekend sees England travel to Paris. Now, normally you'd think, this is a straightforward game, but actually you've got a French team who are buoyed by what's going on, and Bastereau is an absolute beast, and he seems to be rediscovering how to play rugby. this in itself has dictated some changes within the England team, where you've seen Theo brought in at 13, but he lacks pace. Owen Farrell captain, that's also resolved the problem in itself, because Jamie George slips into the slot he should be at number 2 without having to play Dylan Hartley. It's insane picking a guy who is not good enough even to get into your team. He can't even get into the Saints team. So what on earth he's doing as England captain? Interesting stat. Out of all the teams that have won the World Cup, every single one of them is captained by a guy who's in the top 1 or 2 of their team. Richie McCall, the last few. I mean, there's no question he's been the world's best number 7. Then you look at it, Martin Johnson, another good example. Francois Pimont, another good example. These guys are leading at the forefront, and there's no way you can include Dylan Hartley in that category, which is a shame, but hey ho, you just got to deal with it. I like the way the back lineup, those that have watched the Dressing Gown Diary for a while know my feelings on Mike Brown. I think he's a poor man's rugby player. He doesn't think, and he's always looking to get into a scrap. So I'm quite excited about seeing Elliot Daly back in and Watson at 15. But saying that though, the way Watson tried or attempted to tackle Hugh Jones does leave doubts in your mind about what's possible there. The reality is, though, England probably have enough and they'll be hoping to bounce back. So while my heart says I'd love to see a French win, there's probably an easy English win in the reality. And then it concludes at the weekend with an Italian side really on the back of hammerings coming over to Cardiff with a completely changed team. Gatland's given an opportunity to players here to really open up and see what they've got. A changed back line. Liam Williams stays, but George North in. So looking to attacking depth, and the pack has changed with only Corey Hill surviving from the previous encounter. So certainly Wales looking to bring their strength into depth, but it could still come down to points. So it's going to be essential that Wales do open Italy up and score a lot of points. Italy will probably be a little bit tired. Their squad is quite thin. So really you have to be looking at a 40-point win potentially to really make any headway in the Six Nations. Now, Wales will certainly be hoping as well to finish as high as they can. And that will come from 2 big wins against Italy and France. But look, it's all to play for. We move into the penultimate round. There's a lot of excitement. There's still a Grand Slam on the cards. England could still finish 4th. Maybe even lower. There's so much to play for. Scotland will be hoping to get an away win in Dublin. Italy will be hoping to scrape anything they can in Cardiff. And England will just be hoping that they can get out of France with a win. Doesn't really matter how. Anyway, this is the Dressing Gown Diary over now. Enjoy your 6 halves of rugby.